He didn't care if you were offended. He didn't care if you disagreed. He didn't even care if you understood. Arthur Schopenhauer wasn't here to make you feel better. He was here to tell you the truth. The brutal, ugly, inconvenient truth about life, about love, about women, about humanity itself. And he didn't soften the blow. He sharpened it. Born in 1788, Schopenhauer was raised in wealth, but surrounded by bitterness. His father was cold, controlling, and deeply pessimistic. His mother was a literary socialite, shallow, vain, and emotionally distant. Their marriage was a disaster, and Schopenhauer saw through it all. He watched how people lied, how they performed, how they hid their pain behind etiquette and appearances, and he hated it. He was supposed to become a businessman, follow in his father's footsteps. Instead, he chose philosophy, but not the kind that asks, what is beauty? What is justice? No, he asked one question, why do we suffer? And his answer was not comforting. He believed life was driven by will, an irrational, blind force that lives in all of us. You don't choose your desires. You don't choose your nature. You are pulled, pushed, and tormented by an unconscious will that never rests. You think you want love, peace, success? No, you want relief. Relief from the hunger, the boredom, the loneliness. And every time you satisfy one craving, another appears. To Schopenhauer, this wasn't a bug in the system. It was the system. Life is not a gift, it's a trap. Life swings like a pendulum, he wrote, between pain and boredom. And most people, they spend their entire lives swinging blindly between those two poles, while other philosophers wrote about ideals. Schopenhauer wrote about suffering, and while many wrote in careful diplomatic tones, he didn't hide his contempt. He attacked Hegel, calling him a fraud. He dismissed Kant's optimism about moral reason. He mocked religion as a childish coping mechanism. He wrote about love as a trick played by nature to force us into reproduction. He wrote about women as beings ruled by instinct and manipulation, and he didn't care that people were shocked. He once said, "Compassion is the basis of morality," but then added, "Yet no one is truly moral." To him, goodness was rare. Kindness was usually selfish. Love was mostly a mask for lust and control. And for these views, he was ignored. During his lifetime, Schopenhauer was not a celebrity. He wasn't invited to universities, wasn't adored in salons. He lectured to nearly empty rooms. He lived alone. He walked his dog. He waited. And then, the world caught up. By the time he died in 1860, the world was changing. People were starting to question religion. Science was unraveling old beliefs. Skepticism was rising. And suddenly, his words made sense. Nietzsche read him and found fire. Freud read him and found insight. Wagner read him and found tragedy. And modern thinkers, from Jung to Søren to even Jordan Peterson, still echo his shadow today. Because Schopenhauer didn't want to inspire you. He wanted to expose you, to show you that what you call happiness is just temporary anesthesia. That what you call love is often desperation. That what you call truth is usually illusion. He was not bitter, he was honest. And in a world full of lies, honesty feels savage. That's why he's not just another philosopher. He is the most savage philosopher of all time, because he didn't want to make you smarter. He wanted to make you see, and most people would rather stay blind. Arthur Schopenhauer didn't hate the world because it was imperfect. He hated it because it was honest. Underneath the distractions, the religions, the dreams, and romantic illusions, he saw it clearly. And what he saw was suffering. Life, he said, is not a gift. It's a mistake, an accident of blind will, not guided by intelligence or morality, but by an unconscious drive to exist and to consume. You didn't ask to be born. You were thrown into the world by a force that doesn't care, not about your peace, not about your happiness, not about your meaning, the will to life, what Schopenhauer called the deepest essence of the universe, wants only one thing: to perpetuate itself. You are a vessel, a tool, a temporary strategy for biological repetition. That's it. Everything you value, art, love, success, is just a byproduct of this relentless, unconscious force pushing forward at any cost. That's why he didn't celebrate love. He exposed it. To Schopenhauer, love is a biological illusion, a trick nature plays to get you to reproduce. You think you're choosing someone for their soul number. Your unconscious is selecting traits for the next generation. That passion you feel is just the will to life, hijacking your consciousness so you'll pass on your genes. Love is a serious mental disease, Plato once wrote. Schopenhauer agreed, but took it further. He believed we are enslaved by this invisible force. We think we're free, but our deepest drives are not chosen. They are imposed, and the highest proof of this slavery is human suffering. No other species tortures itself like we do. Animals suffer pain, but they don't invent meaning just to watch it collapse. They don't hope, they don't regret, they don't dream, only to be disappointed. Humans do. And to Schopenhauer, that's why we're the most miserable beings on earth. He didn't just criticize pleasure, he dismantled it. Pleasure, he said, is not a positive experience. It's the temporary absence of pain. You're hungry, you eat. That's not joy. That's relief. You're lonely. You find company. That's not love. That's sedation. And once the relief fades, the craving returns. Life becomes a loop of tension and release. Never satisfaction, never peace. Even friendship was suspect. Schopenhauer believed that most people are selfish, and when they're kind, it's usually transactional. True altruism, extremely rare, because most people, he claimed, don't care about truth. They care about comfort. They lie to themselves. They perform. They conform, and they avoid pain at any cost. He rejected optimism as foolishness. He rejected religion as self-deception. He rejected the Enlightenment belief that reason and progress would lead to a better world. History, he said, is a record of the misery of mankind. And progress, it only brings new forms of suffering. Technology makes life easier, but more empty. Medicine cures disease, but extends depression. We solve one problem, only to invent 10 more. Because the problem is not the world, it's the will, and the will cannot be fixed. It can only be seen. That's why Schopenhauer wrote with such cold precision. He wasn't ranting, he was dissecting. He stripped away every excuse we use to justify life, love, a trap, success, an illusion, morality, mostly selfish, freedom, an ego fantasy, and at the center of it all, suffering, always suffering. So did he hate everything? Not exactly. He didn't hate because he was emotional. He hated because he was awake. He looked at the world without filters, without faith, without fantasy. And what remained was harsh but honest. And to him, that was better than sweet, beautiful lies. Arthur Schopenhauer didn't believe in polite truths. He believed in sharp ones, especially when it came to women, love, and morality. To him, romance wasn't sacred. It was survival, not spiritual, biological, strategic, a game played by nature, with lust as bait and suffering as the price. He wrote, "Love is based on an illusion and represents the greatest error of human life. Not because love is weak, but because love is a lie that convinces people to surrender their freedom, their identity, and their reason. All for what? Temporary intimacy and permanent responsibility." He didn't stop there. Schopenhauer had one of the most brutal critiques of women ever written by a major philosopher. Women are by nature meant to obey. They are childlike, short-sighted, and ruled by instinct. He believed they were skilled manipulators, not out of malice, but because survival demanded it. In a world of physical vulnerability, he claimed, women evolved to control through emotion. To modern ears, this sounds outrageous, and it is. But Schopenhauer didn't care. He believed that biology, not morality, drives human behavior, and that the idealization of women was not respect, but blindness. He saw marriage, not as a union of souls, but as a trap. To marry means to do everything possible, to become an enemy. In his view, marriage was not about love, but reproduction and obligation. A man sacrifices freedom, time, and identity. For what? For the illusion that someone else will complete him. He also wrote, "Marrying means handing over half your rights and doubling your duties." This wasn't bitterness. It was anatomy of a contract that in his eyes was rarely fair. Even morality, Schopenhauer dismantled. He believed most people are not moral because they choose to be, but because they fear consequences. Take away the eyes of others, take away the reward, take away the shame, and you'll see what's left. He believed true morality came only from compassion, but genuine compassion, he said, is incredibly rare. People act good because it's convenient, because it buys status, because it feeds the ego. People are generally hypocrites. They wear masks. They pretend to be better than they are. He saw morality not as virtue, but as theater. Religion, same story. He believed faith was a comfort, not a revelation. People don't believe in God because it's true. They believe because it's easier than facing reality, the pain, the fear, the meaninglessness. To Schopenhauer, humans live on illusions. They worship romance, they praise virtue, they promise eternity. But under it all is self-interest, wanting to be loved, wanting to be safe, wanting to matter. And when those needs are threatened, people become cruel. He saw through the performances, through the rituals, the vows, the smiles. He believed most people don't want truth. They want stories. That makes suffering feel less pointless. And when someone threatens that illusion, they call him cold, cynical, dangerous, which is exactly what he was, because he didn't try to make you feel good. He tried to make you see. And what he saw was a world that runs on pain, disguise, and denial. That's why this part of his legacy is rarely taught in school. It's too raw, too offensive, too real. But for those willing to face it, there's clarity in the wreckage. You want to believe he was wrong, that life has meaning, that love is real, that people are good. But look around. Are we really happier now? Are we wiser, kinder? Or are we just more distracted? Arthur Schopenhauer believed the world runs on illusion, that people avoid suffering by covering it with pleasure, status, and lies. And when you look at the modern world, you start to wonder if he saw it coming. We have more technology, more freedom, more access to information than ever before, and yet Rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide are climbing. We can connect with anyone, anytime, but we feel more alone. We can consume anything, and yet we feel hollow. Because the will, the blind, restless drive Schopenhauer described, has not been silenced. It has been amplified through algorithms, through advertising, through endless dopamine loops that promise satisfaction, but deliver numbness. He said life is the pursuit of relief, not joy. Modern life proves it. We don't pursue meaning. We pursue escape, scroll, buy, swipe, repeat. Not because it makes us happy, but because it silences the quiet scream beneath the surface. Schopenhauer said, love is not real. Look at dating culture. How many people love each other for who they are versus what they provide? Status, looks, convenience, validation. Once the illusion fades, so does the attachment. Not because we're evil, but because the will was never about soul connection. It was about survival, reproduction, advantage. He said morality is performance. Watch politics, social media. People don't seek truth. They seek applause. They don't change minds. They build echo chambers. Virtue is currency. Outrage is status. Goodness is often a tool to destroy enemies and elevate the self. He said suffering defines life. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you truly felt at peace? Without stimulation, without distraction? Can you sit in silence without feeling the need to escape? Most can't, because deep down we know something's missing. Schopenhauer believed we've confused comfort with fulfillment, and that modern life trades authenticity for convenience. That's why we feel empty after pleasure, guilty after indulgence, lonely after constant connection, because we've built a world of surfaces with no depth, and the more we chase meaning through consumption, achievement, or attention, the further it slips away. Exactly as he warned. So maybe he wasn't just a pessimist, maybe he was a prophet, not of destruction, but of clarity. He never said life had no beauty, only that beauty was rare and fragile, that most people will choose distraction over truth. But for those who look deeper, there is something else, not happiness, not salvation, but honesty. And in that honesty, a strange kind of freedom, not from pain, but from illusion. Because when you see the world clearly, you stop expecting it to save you. You stop needing to be entertained, understood, or loved by everyone. You stop chasing what was never yours to begin with, and you begin, maybe for the first time, to live, not perfectly, not peacefully, but deliberately awake. Schopenhauer didn't believe in hope. He believed in clarity. And clarity, he said, only comes after illusion dies. After you stop chasing, stop begging, stop pretending, that's when real life begins. So what did he recommend? Not denial, not rebellion, not submission, but something radical: detachment. If life is driven by blind will, then the only escape is not to obey it. Don't fight it. Don't feed it. Step outside of it. He found peace, not in people, but in solitude. He once said, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone." Because only in silence, only in isolation, can you hear the mind beneath the noise. He didn't believe in marriage. He didn't believe in fame. He didn't believe in progress. He believed in beauty, not in status, but in art, music, literature, nature. Because art, he said, was one of the few ways to silence the will to step outside of desire, to witness something without wanting to possess it. He saw music as the purest form of this, not words, not logic, but sound that cuts past the mind and speaks directly to the soul. He also believed in compassion, not as virtue signaling, but as the only real good. When you truly see another's suffering as your own, you break the illusion of separation. You act not out of obligation, but from something deeper. That, he said, is morality without lies. But the greatest lesson Schopenhauer gave us is this: you don't have to enjoy life to live well. You don't have to win or love or believe or be liked. You have to endure, see clearly, and act with dignity, even in a meaningless world, especially in a meaningless world. That is power, not in domination, not in illusion, but in clarity. Share this video with someone who's ready to stop chasing comfort and start facing reality. Comment below, "I see clearly. I choose truth over comfort." And remember, this is not the end, it's the beginning. Because when all illusions are gone and only you remain, that's when you finally become real. The journey continues in the next video.